Okay, so I've got my base size traced out here, size 10. I've got my pattern. My base size has got the y-axis, vertical, x-axis, horizontal. My pattern has also got the equivalent of the y-axis marked on it here. So I'm going to align my pattern with the base size, and I'm going to use these little grids that I've got marked on here as a guide for how much I move my pattern. So this is going to be the movement method of grading. Now, at the moment, these grids are 3 millimeters in square size, so 3 millimeter grids. So every time I've got to move a 3 millimeter increment, I'll be using one of those little squares as my guide. So lining up the pattern to start off with. Now I know that my first move needs to be moving to increase the distance between the waist and the hip, and my first move is -6. So 2 lots of the square in the negative direction gives me -6. I mark in just the first little part of my waist. My dart here needs to be -6 and 3. So I'm already up 6, and I'll move out 3. And I make sure that that's an equal distance all the way through here at the centre front. At this stage, I mark on my dart, the notches and the drill hole. My second dart, I need to be -6 and 6. So again, I'm already up -6 and 3. So another lot of 3 on the little grid. Mark my second dart in and the drill hole. My corner needs to be -6 and 12.5. So I'm already 6. Another 2 lots of the squares will give me another 6, and the 0.5 is just over the line on my grid. Making sure it's equal, I then mark in my corner. At the hip, I need to be 0 and 12.5. So I'm already out to the 12.5. I'm going to slide back down here so that I'm on 0. So 0 in the X, 12.5 in the Y. Mark in my hip notch. Then the length of the skirt needs to be increased between the hip and the hem 3 millimeters, and I need to maintain that width that I've already created. So there we go, 3 millimeters in length. I mark the corner of the hem, and to get the center front corner, I'm staying down 3 millimeters in the X direction, but moving back to 0 on my Y direction and marking in that center front. So you can just about see all of the points that I've marked in. I need to then go back and use my card pattern as a template to connect those points. So straight lines are fairly straightforward. That's just, you can use a ruler even for those. Down at the hem. Then the curve at the hip, I need to use this shape because I want to replicate it. So I'm going to place my pattern halfway between the 2 sections that I've marked in, and I'm going to blend those 2 sections together. And the same at the waist. So halfway between the 2 sections that I've marked in, and blend halfway, connecting two sections together, blending them, and here at the centre front, connecting and blending. So you can see now I've got my little cross there for my drill hole, and my notches have moved, the side seam has moved, the hem has moved. So that's my larger size, size 12 now. So the original one was size 10, and I've got size 10 and 12 nested together. My next size will be a size 8. That means I use the same numbers, but I change the value from positive to negative or negative to positive. So what I used before, the same amounts, but changing the direction. So lining up with my y-axis, I need to shorten the distance from here to here this time. So I'm going to move positive 6 instead of negative 6 to mark in my centre front waist. My dart needs to move towards me 3 millimeters and still maintain that positive 6 distance from the waist, marking in my waist dart and my drill hole another 3. So this time we're negative 3, positive 6. So total amount negative 6, positive 6. Making sure that I maintain accuracy all the way through the centre front. And then I'm moving a positive 6 and negative 12.5. So that's 12 and a little bit past, marking this corner. Then I need to go back to 0, still maintaining the 12.5 in the negative direction, marking in my hip notch. And instead of moving this way in a positive direction, I'm going to shorten this area between the hip and the hem. So it's a negative 3 and 12.5. So I'm still maintaining the same width. I'm just shortening the length of it. Then back to 0 on my Y, and still maintaining 3 millimeters length shortened on the X. So my coordinates are 3 and 0. And again, I've got all of those little points marked out. I've forgotten to mark my dart drill hole, so I'll just go back and do that. So I've got my dart drill hole there for one, for the other, connect all the pieces together. And so even although this is a miniature sized pattern that I'm using, I'm grading a full 3 millimeters or 6 millimeters or 6.5. I'm not reducing the size of those incremental growths. I'm moving it the full amount that I would do if it's a full size pattern, so that it doesn't make it too, what's the word I can use? It gets very fiddly trying to calculate what it should be on a reduced size pattern. So let's just leave it at the full amount that we're grading. So I've got my notch and drill hole in place. If I just quickly draw in that one there, you'll see that my dart has moved. If I draw this one in here, you'll see that this dart has moved. If I draw the other sized dart, the size 12 one, and this one. So it's really a visual aid to use these coloured pens, but when you're starting out, it's fine if you just want to use a pencil to start off with, and then you can use the pens to go over them afterwards. So you can see now I've got 3 sizes there. I've got my size 8, I've got size 10, and I've got size 12. So that's the movement method of grading, manual movement method.